Hello and welcome to another edition of Your Bridge to Addiction Resources, a show sponsored and hosted by the Council on Chemical Abuse with the People Chronicles. My name is Jennifer Kaucher and I'm your host today, and for our next few shows we're going to be talking about underage drinking. So today I have Joe Boyle with me, and he's one of our instructors for our underage drinking program. So Joe, if you could just introduce yourself and give a little background, maybe how you got connected with the underage drinking program.
Well, thank you, Jennifer, and good afternoon.
Thank you for being here.
Yes, my name is Joe Boyle, and I've been with the underage drinking program of Berks County for 9 years now. A fantastic program that I think blends itself addressing the issues that our young people have involved themselves with. Most often through peer pressure, but then, you know, as you peel away those layers on several occasions, numerous occasions, you do find that it has gone beyond peer pressure, where addiction has come into play. So as a sixth grade school teacher for the last 18 years in the Daniel Boone Area School District, I wear that hat. But also I've worked as a clinical drug and alcohol counselor for Karen treatment centers, working in that capacity for 6 years, also as a student assistance professional for Karen. And then, you know, I've had the mental health component where I supervised the RTF at the Children's Home of Reading for 5 years, and also for the last 5 years I worked as a clinical therapist at Concern Counseling Services. So all of those areas combined, and doing this over 9 years, it's given me an exposure, and it's always been, you know, working in that adolescent capacity with young adults. Many times I come away from this program where these kids are like, I say to them, listen, I'll make this as painless as I possibly can for you. You're here with me for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, at 8 a.m.
And I always ask them this. I say, you know, didn't you have anything better else to do this morning? You know, because it's 8 o'clock in the morning. And so from 8 until 12, they're with me. And this program, where a curriculum has been written, you know, we break it down to modules over that 3-week period. What I like to do is integrate a personal narrative, weave a personal narrative. At the end of the 3 weeks, they're like, is that it? And so that's refreshing to me, because I really feel as if they were listening then. Yeah. And they come away from it. Are they always in agreement with my recommendations at the end? No. But more times than not, they understand, they see the big picture, and that's what I'm trying to illustrate for them.
And it sounds like with your background, because at the council we kind of view this as an early intervention program, it sounds like with your background that has really helped to kind of bring it to the classroom when you're talking to the kids, having that background experience.
Absolutely.
So can you tell me a little bit more about the curriculum and what specifically you talk about with
the curriculum is written through the Pennsylvania DUI Association. This is somewhat of a junior ARD program. And this curriculum is broken into 5 modules. The first module is the introduction to the overall program. I talk about the necessity for them to participate. I said, because when you participate, I believe if you're just sitting there as a bystander, I said, that's where the pain part comes into play. But I said, when you'll find yourself wanting to ask questions, and there are times where I just do not know the answer to that question, and I point that out to them. But I do come back and I do, you know, keep in touch with my contacts from Karen, from Concern, from anywhere in the spectrum of the mental health field that I've worked in. I will get that information back to them the following week. But then moving on from that introduction, we talk about confidentiality, because I do tell them, I said, listen, you may know somebody within here, but you really don't want to be going out there saying, hey, do you know that Jennifer, she's in our program, she did this, she had possession of weed at a party, etc. So the kids understand that. In the second week, or the second module, it's broken down to the Pennsylvania laws. And we go over that very carefully with the kids. And this is where their interest really starts to perk up.
Yeah.
Because you'll
You can
see
show
here.
this to the audience too. I don't know. You guys probably can't zoom in on this.
It talks about the underage drinking laws.
Yeah.
And I do specify to them, they're saying, well, in Europe, you're 16 years old. And I say, no, let me clarify that. That's 18, okay? Yeah. But I said, and they say, well, if you're young enough to fight for your country, you should be, able to have a drink. And I said, well, the one thing I really bring into this, because these underage drinking laws were developed because of brain studies. Mm-hmm. And I really tried to emphasize the importance of the full maturation of the brain and its developmental process at the age of 25. And so, the U.S. government and also the states under that jurisdiction, they're all 21. At one time the drinking age was 18, but mm-hmm. I tell them, your understanding of this whole dynamic is the brain, it's very simple. You take a cucumber and you put it into a vat of vinegar. And over a period of time, a cellular change begins to take place. Over that time, you take it out and the kids emphatically say, it's a pickle. Well, of course. I said, but can you change that pickle back to a cucumber? And they're like, no. I said, of course not. And I said, so, the government feels as if the more exposure that you have to the developmental part without the interaction with alcohol, then you know what, you're that much for the better. Because different parts of the brain will start to activate at certain times of their maturation. So we break down the underage drinking laws to them. And we also then get into the high cost. We do a breakdown of their financial versus the time. I've had kids who their financial totals have reached over $40,000. And that $40,000, you get into fines, court costs, evaluations, loss of wages, legal fees, insurance aspects, education. But a big bulk of that is if they've had treatment previously. Okay. Perhaps they may have already been inpatient somewhere, where that could range anywhere from $15,000 to $30,000. Mm-hmm. And then there's other incidental costs, like when gasoline was very expensive for the last several years, and some of these young people had to, be driven here, and they're paying close to $3 a gallon, and they have to travel over an hour. Yeah. Right there, that's almost like $45 to $50. So they're like, we never thought about that. But also the time that's invested in something because of that decision that they made. We talk about their personal consequences as well in the second phase of this. Module 3 talks about the facts of alcohol. It talks about the different, we have more young people today who not only have used alcohol, but they're being referred because of possession of marijuana. But it does happen maybe every 2 cycles that I'll have kids more than alcohol and marijuana. The big thing today is prescription pills. Yeah. That's a huge aspect. Opiates, heroin. I haven't seen so much with crack cocaine within the last 5 years, although stimulants are still out there. Crystal meth is another aspect of this. So this also breaks it down to the young people. It breaks down the effects of what alcohol abuse does, the brain under construction. So that plays out really well. Yeah. Then in module 4, we get into the aspects of looking at their own personal use. That's my favorite part of this component, because I bring in the DSM-4, DSM-5, and I list everything down between abuse and addiction. Mm-hmm. I have young people who have diagnosed themselves. You can see it. It clicks. in their eyes.
Yeah, I was going to say, have you seen the light bulb? Because,
Oh,
I mean, it seems
yeah,
like
it's
8 in the
frequent.
morning and they're getting a lot of information, but
Usually
just
when I get
seeing
into
the
that,
progression.
when I get into this, it's probably about, 10-ish in the morning.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of discussion, because another thing that I ask them, I can't make them stop wanting to use a chemical. But I can tell them, this is day one. So over the next, 21 days, I'm asking you to go chemical free. And if you've had to use a chemical, or you made a conscious decision to involve yourself at a party, I think you may start to, again, peel away some of those layers that will answer some of your questions about, do I have more of an issue than just being a social participant, understanding that you're under the age of 21, understanding that marijuana is not it's not legal.
Yeah.
And again, this whole time I'm weaving in a personal narrative. I'm not a person who's in recovery. However, I am, an adult child of an alcoholic. And, so that personal narrative
Helps while you're going along.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then in our final module, it's like, what are the alternatives to using?
Okay.
Looking at your behavior, because this whole thing about using is about a behavioral change. And the behavioral change, these young people have to understand their behavior affects not only themselves but their families.
So in teaching, have you had some kind of experience while being connected with the Underage Drinking Program of having like professional or personal, just something that's changed how you view this, and something that has impacted you personally or professionally since instructing?
I make connections every time I facilitate. And parents reach out to me. I get really nice notes that have been sent to me. But there's been a number of different individuals who over the years, especially my biggest concern are my females, and I tell that to all the young ladies there, because they have to live and become stigmatized with a label. And because uncharacteristically, maybe they had been under the influence and they were taken advantage of. And so I had a situation with actually a young person in my school district, and it's funny because kids who have been referred where I teach at Daniel Boone Area School District, they're like, Mr. Boyle. Do you know him? Yeah, that was my 6th grade school teacher.
Yeah.
So those young people, though, the parents, I had a young girl whose boyfriend, he was graduating, she was only in 10th grade. She became intoxicated and fell into a pool and nearly drowned to death. But she was taken advantage of. This young person, 911 was called, and she, again, was unconscious for over 72 hours. They didn't know whether she would make it or not. It was gratifying to see her sitting in that room. Beautiful young lady, and now she's a sophomore in college. So
you do, some kids that come through your school, you do kind of know what happens afterwards.
Exactly, yeah.
Because we wonder that with the office, we get these names and but we don't know what happens after. And
some of them
wish them the best.
Some of them keep in touch with me, but then there's those kids who I let them know there's 3 criteria you could get a successful discharge from the program without recommendations. You could have a successful discharge or completion with recommendations. This is where the clinical component, drug and alcohol, mental health evaluations, attending AA or NA meetings. I like to those kids who have been referred through the youth aid panel to give them 4 additional hours at the Opportunity House so they gain a greater exposure. And then you have the non-compliant discharge, and that's rare, but it does happen.
Yeah. So we're wrapping up on our time, but is there anything else you'd like to share about how this has impacted you, or something else you'd like to share about the program and your time with us?
The one thing I would love to see, I wish all young people would be exposed to this program. I wish it would be out in our schools and not just referred through district justices, youth aid panels, But now school districts are able to refer their students. We need to get the message out more to them. But this is a beautiful curriculum that could be instituted, but time,
Hasn't reached
money.
full- Yeah. No, but it's wonderful that we have instructors like you who can
Right.
help with the
Thank
program.
you.
And I know from my interaction with it that the participants, it seems that they benefit from it very much. And the
Yes, they
parents
do.
as well who are involved with
Sure.
it. So if you would like to learn more information about our underage drinking program, you can visit our website, cocaberks.org, COCABERKS.org, or call us at 610-376-8669. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Check back every week for a new story with your Bridge to Addiction resources. You can call 610-376-8669 or visit online at cocaberks.org, COCABERKS.org. Be sure to like and follow the Council on Chemical Abuse on Facebook and Twitter.